Taken from Parliament to the airwaves this week. Why don't we bring in now our political panel? And joining us today, Labor MP Josh Burns is in Brisbane, like so many in his party, and Independent MP Di Lee is in Sydney. Welcome to both, and I'm sure Josh will indulge me. A quick question to you, Di. You are what we might call highly visible at the moment after featuring in the return of Kitchen Cabinet last night. Congratulations, you revealed a lot of yourself. What's the feedback been like?
Oh, look, the feedback has been amazing. So, yeah, no, it's just obviously, it's just people very appreciative that I've been raw, vulnerable and sharing. And, of course, that's just who I am. So thanks for mentioning it, Greg. So
well,
yeah,
it was hard to go past. It was a good program. And Josh Burns, I don't know what your cooking's like or whether you've even been invited, but you can settle for afternoon briefing in the meantime. Why don't we launch, Josh, into the announcements that came out of National Cabinet this afternoon? Housing is an acute problem everywhere, especially in the inner Melbourne area where you are. What sort of difference will this extra pot of incentive money make to the states, cracking on with identification of sites and allowing the building to occur?
Greg, good afternoon, and good afternoon, Di. I'll be sure to catch up on your episode of Kitchen Cabinet as soon as I have a moment, but I would say a couple of things. First of all, the reforms announced by National Cabinet are really significant. Making sure that there are standardised rental rights across the country is really important so that people aren't evicted without cause and that people have more security in their own home. That's a really important thing that we have agreement across National Cabinet. The other thing that's just really such a change from the last 10 years is the fact that the federal government is heavily investing in new housing and heavily investing through the states and territories, the construction of new homes, because that's what's got us into this mess. Across the housing sector, we have such low vacancy rates. The rental market is a vacancy rate of just over 1%. We need more homes. We need more homes and more affordable homes for people. And the policies that have been announced by National Cabinet are not only put money behind the construction of new homes so that Australians can actually have a shot at owning a home or being a part of it or having an affordable home, but also has agreement across the states and territories so that there is planning reform, there is a whole range of policy levers that are pulled in order to get more homes for Australians. It's a really big day, and I'm really proud that we did such a large amount of work to help steer the states and territories in the right direction.
Di Lee, I'm sure like everyone else, you're just absorbing the full suite of announcements that were contained in these 3, or if you count the attachments, 5 pages. But if it was as simple as providing incentive payments to the states to clear the way for construction of hundreds of thousands of homes, I wonder why it hasn't happened already. What sort of difference do you think it's going to make?
Look, I agree with Josh in terms of the housing crisis. There's a huge, shortfall, and I don't even know if the legislation of the HAF is going to address that. I welcome I believe it's $3 billion for states and territories.
3.5, yeah.
3.5 billion state territories to meet, the housing accord target. But I think it needs more. I think it really is I think it comes back to local and bringing different stakeholders together, local and state. Obviously, federally, we don't build. Federal government gives us the funding and the money to make it happen. But at state and local and other stakeholders have to come together at the table and actually work out a solution. Because at the moment, I think there's a lot of talking, a lot of meetings, a lot of legislations, but bringing the actual groups that actually to make this happen, such as councils, such as developers, such as community housing, such as stakeholders, those who've got the money to put in to get this to make it happen. So it's very critical, I believe, whereby from my perspective, as a local MP out here in Fowler, and that's what I'm doing, I'm looking for a local solution. Because really we can't wait for the HAF legislation to pass. And even if this these $3.5 billion. I mean, when is that going to come through? How's that going to be filtered down?
Yeah.
All of this talk about money and legislation, it's not going to happen until the actual people sitting there at the table and doing it together, working it together.
Yeah, it's quite granular, Josh Burns, some of the changes that they seek to make, particularly in what they call the National Planning Reform Blueprint. It seems to get right down to building certification, gaps in housing design, streamlined pathways to approvals, call-in powers and the rest of it. I mean, is this a pioneering or groundbreaking intervention by the Commonwealth to lead what it has always and traditionally been a state and local preserve?
Well, Greg, I think you answered your own question. I mean, these are significant reforms, but the housing market is complex, and without planning reform, and without a speeding up of approvals, and without the ability for governments and housing providers to build more homes, then we're going to be stuck in the same mess. So we want to make it easier for more homes to be built. We want to help fund more homes to be built. And we want to work with the states and territories so that those homes are in good locations, near train lines, near public infrastructure, near public transport. We want to make sure that people have affordable, good quality homes that are not just shoeboxes that have no investment in them, but rather good quality homes where we need them in our cities where people want to live. And that's why it is so important to get so granular and so important to go into those details.
Di?
Can I jump in there? Look, I think we need to actually also take into consideration the increase in construction costs. So we might be, putting aside $3.5 billion, whatever, and talking just about state. But we need to bring councils together as well and sit at the table and actually also consider the cost of building a house now has really gone up. So that's another big issue that we're not also addressing in this. So there's so many things that we have to sit together at the table, local, state and federal, to work out a solution for the community.
And I'm sure we'll be asking analysts in the market whether there'd be an inflationary effect of tipping $3.5 billion in over the next 5 years. But let's not try and tackle that today. Di, not completely separate from some of these questions is, of course, population, the number of people we're settling in this country each year. As a refugee yourself, you will have noticed the government, ahead of the Labor conference that Josh is attending, has notched up the annual refugee intake by about 2,000. They have a longer-term ambition to take it to 27. What are your observations about the current setting there at 20,000 a year?
Look, as a former refugee, I think it's wonderful that Australia is stepping up and playing a role in the resettlement of humanitarian and people seeking asylum. I think it's something that as a country we need to do. However, I think with the current issue around housing, the issue around infrastructure, it's something that we can't just bring people in here without thinking about the consequences of those actions. And I think, as you know, Fowler has resettled around 10,000 out of the 12,000 Syrian refugees, 10,000 out of the 12,000 Syrian refugees settled here in Fowler over the last, since 2015. So, and we have seen the impact of that in terms of schools overflowing, not enough housing, not enough accommodation, jobs, schools, and our roads and infrastructure. No investment has been made. So I think while it's great to do this, we cannot bring people here and let them fail and let them and not allow them and give them the opportunity to grow and be productive citizen of this society. So let's not do the feel-good thing without actually thinking about what's going to happen in the future for these people, for this community.
Well, Josh Burns, can the 20,000 enhanced intake actually be comfortably managed at the moment, given some of those pressure points that Di just outlined?
Let's be really careful here, Greg, about the way in which we talk about our humanitarian program, because of the 160-odd thousand people that we grant a permanent residency or citizenship each and every year, a very, very small fraction of that is through our humanitarian program. And at the moment, it's less than 20,000, and we're going to bring that up to 20,000. It's an important increase, but one that is a very small fraction of the overall migration intake. And I think that I agree with Di to say that we cannot just allow people to come here and not give people support. We have to keep up with infrastructure, with a growing population, regardless of what someone's status is and where they came from. But we are a migrant country, and we have been a home to people and communities from right across the world, and especially from countries like Afghanistan. A lot of the people who we are welcoming here helped us in our efforts to fight the Taliban, and now they've come to Australia and are rightly become citizens. So we need to support them in their transition. But there is also things like family reunion and other things that we need to be addressing. But I would just urge that we are very conscious of the fact that this is a very small part of a much bigger migration program.
All right. No, thank you for making that distinction. It is important to do, Josh Burns. All right. Now, look, just finally, both of you, and briefly, I suppose, it's go the Matildas, and Australians can do that, not seeking any sort of material reward like a public holiday. That seems to be the reading, isn't it, Di Lee? We're not getting one of those, but we'll support them all the same.
Oh, look, absolutely. I will be cheering the Matildas on. I saw the last game when, Mary Fowler, of course, Mary Fowler is my favourite, and you probably know why.
Yeah.
and I'm cheering her on and looking forward to watching the game tonight.
All right. And Josh Burns, just enjoy the moment, I suppose. Don't worry about public holidays.
Well, my body might be in Brisbane for the Labor Party National Conference, but my heart is in Sydney tonight with the Matildas, and it's extraordinary. We're watching history, and we will watch tonight and see them take on those pesky Poms, but hopefully the convicts prevail.
Find yourself a TV, both of you. I'm sure you will. I will. And we'll get you both back before too long. Thanks so much, Di Lee, Josh Burns, for joining us again.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Josh.